Alright, today's impromptu DIY project has to do with my Danby Premiere dehumidifier. Now, this is one that I got at Costco a few years ago, and this one is the DDR60A3GP, for those of you that want to know that, and it's actually probably one of the few that hasn't been recalled because of, spontaneous catching on fire, although this one I discovered probably could have caught on fire from what I discovered. My dehumidifier runs pretty much all year round, just kind of where we are. Our basement always seems kind of musty, and the dehumidifier wasn't really pulling as much moisture out of the air as it usually did. I would have to run it all year round, and I'd have to empty it every day or every other day, and it just hasn't been performing as well in the past 6 months or more. And I would find myself, cleaning the filter pretty religiously to see if maybe that was doing something, or, I hadn't really seen a spike in my energy bill or anything suggesting that it was, running more energy or anything like that. So tonight, when I was doing my usual check of the air filter, I happened to catch a look at the fins behind it, and these were entirely, top to bottom, left to right, caked in gross, somewhat damp in some parts, dust, like a blanket of dust. I haven't seen a blanket of dust that bad since, I cleaned some old VCRs out from the 80s. It was pretty bad in there. So obviously the airflow had been pretty restricted, and so I had to get at it, but I couldn't really get my hand in the slots underneath it and get way up. I could barely kind of get my finger in there. So here's what I ended up doing. Now, unplug it first. That's just safety 101. I don't know if what I did was technically, sanctioned by the manual or the manufacturer, but this is what I did. So I wanted to try and get this front cover off. Couldn't figure out how to do it. So what I ended up doing was, there's screws at the top here, this side and the other. There are screws down here on this side and the other side. And then there's also screws here, this side and the other side. Once I got those all off, I could at least kind of peel these apart and, get these apart enough that I could get my hand up and under here a little bit better. And I was able to peel, like a sticky blanket and somewhat wet in some parts, this just thing full of dust and hair. We have a long-haired cat, so this is probably, a whole separate cat full of dirt and hair out of here. I didn't probably get all of it. I didn't have a brush or something that I could fully get back in there, but I was able to just kind of, with my hands, kind of scrape off enough of this hair to hopefully restore some of the airflow in those fins. Did it very gently because you don't want to crush the fins, and also it really kind of tears up your hands after a certain while. I got, a little bit dinged up here. But, so I've done that. Now I'm going to reinsert the filter one-handed. Kind of goes in a little bit easy now that there's not a whole thing full of dust and hair there. I'll put this back on here, and I'll replug this back in, and we will fire it up and see what happens. So not a whole noticeable audible difference, but it almost was kind of whistling a little bit before, and I don't think it does that now. So I think this probably will help in the long run. I'll update in the description below on this YouTube video. what I end up finding in the long run here, but that's definitely one thing you can check if you have a Danby Premiere dehumidifier that suddenly kind of stops working as well. There's probably a whole lot more dust in there than you really realize. Look at it. Look at it.